Hello, everybody. Welcome to yet another GSG Talk, GSG number 5. We have Information Trade and Actitect today with us. I want to thank them. Also, folks in the chat, as always, if you're hearing this correct, please confirm so we know everything is going smoothly. How are you guys doing? Hello, Information Trade. Hello, Actitect.
Hello, doing well.
Hello, also doing well.
I am glad. I am very glad. You both guys have a very big studio behind you, so that will probably be part of the chats. I'm sure most of the streams are interested on the toys you guys have in there. But let's start with the basic questions, the questions we ask everybody on these little streams. How did you... Let's do like this. Whenever I ask a question, Information Tray goes first, and then Actitect, so we don't step on each other. How did you guys met the GSG? Who did you talk to? Did you saw someone? What's this backstory?
In my case, my friend Andrew, aka X Studios, I was an artist on his label. X Studios is actually the label. Hey, shout out, he's here. Back in the day when Dan and a fellow named Coherence, former member of the guild, used to have a weekly talk show kind of like this called Gear Splaining, where they talked about, gear stuff, and they invited everybody that was an X Studios artist to come on and chat with them one week. So I was actually on a GSG stream before I had even joined the guild. So then at that point, they talked me in, oh, we should invite you to the Discord. You can come hang out. And then after I was on the Discord, it wasn't too long after that until they got me streaming. So that's my story. That's how I found us.
Nice.
And I believe Andrew met Dan at NobCon one year, and I think that's how Andrew got into it. So it all rotated around NobCon, I believe.
Nice. How are you, Acti?
I was actually somewhere in 2019. I was planning to spend a lot of time creating content for the internet, and I first have had my target to create some YouTube channel about creating setups. But then I discovered Twitch, and I thought, well, it's probably more fun and also more relevant to do live streaming first. Also because I thought my rig wasn't ready enough to teach. So then I went to Twitch, and the first 3 months I was like playing for myself most of the time, and I didn't really understand the concept of live streaming in the beginning. I was like, go live, then play for 20 minutes, and then stop going live. I had no idea how it worked. I didn't find anybody yet. But then I was also on Facebook, and on Facebook, I think it was in the Dollars Jamming group or something. I think Dan or Coherence posted the lineup for the first edition of Synth Saturday. And I was already on Twitch, and then I went in the Discord and I saw the first event, and I was totally blown away. I was like, okay, this is my calling. I gotta get involved in this, and that's pretty much how I ended up in the Shrimp Guild. Not one particular user, but the entire Synth Saturday thing promoted on another network.
Nice. Since Saturday, that should be like Stream Sunday, but the predecessor, right? Something like that?
Yeah, it was the predecessor, the first edition of what now is called Synthon.
Nice.
Yes.
Oh,
that was almost exactly 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Happy Shrimp.
It started out as barely a one-day event, and then it just ballooned into this 2-3 day thing. You're like, well, we can't call it Shrimp Saturday anymore because it starts on Friday. It goes until Sunday. So yeah, that's what it became. Synth Fest, and now Synth On.
So you are here from the beginning as well, Information Tray.
Yeah, 2019, I believe, is when I joined. So yeah.
Okay, then let's hear.
Yeah, back before any of that stuff, like back when I first joined, there was kind of there were so few of us that everybody kind of coordinated each night. Like, okay, I'll stream at 8, you stream at 10. There was kind of a little mini schedule, but there wasn't any like, formal events or anything. It was just sort of like, Thursday nights, coherent. I would start off with actually I started off doing DJ stuff. I didn't have any of this stuff when I started even 3-4 years ago, whatever it was. I started off doing DJ sets, and it was like me, Coherence, and somebody else did like Thursday night streams every week. And it eventually evolved into this madness. Yeah. So I had I believe the only thing it's not even in the rig anymore, but my machine drum that's sitting right here was the only thing I had back then. I also owned my 303, but that was not, a friend of mine had that in his studio. It wasn't in my possession at the time. So he was, yeah. Sorry, I'm rambling. Anyways.
Is there something that you miss from the old days? I know this is a nostalgia question, but
yeah. I mean, I guess maybe things felt a little more tight-knit back then. There's so many people on our streams. There's a lot of people, like I watch their streams all the time, but I couldn't tell you anything else about them. They don't really, there's some people that don't really participate in the Discord that much. You see them once in a while, but so there was just a little bit more, it felt like a smaller, tighter community, a little bit more like I knew everybody a lot better than I do now. But, more people is better though. So.
How about you, Actitect? Do you miss anything from the old days?
Yeah, just some streamers that are not in the guild anymore. Some great streamers that don't stream that much anymore. Coherence was a great personality to have in the guild. And Monono joined a short while after the first editions of Since Saturday, and they all chose different paths. But it's not that there's something in particular that I miss about those early days. Just some personalities that were really nice to have around.
Besides that, is there something that you really value about the way the project has evolved?
What do you mean?
Like the contrary of the last question, like, did you miss something that was happening before, and do you value something that has been created? Do you say, oh, this has happened and this is very nice?
Well, I'm pretty much, I don't want to give myself too much credit, but I pretty much initiated or created or realized most of the developments that happened the last 3 years, the design-wise and format-wise, and some events. So needless to say, those were all things that I thought were relevant to do. So if I wouldn't value them, I wouldn't have done them. So
that's fair.
Yeah, and I think that bigger community is better. We may not know every person as intimately as we used to, but it's so great to see so many different people. And we've got, it was kind of a lot of just basically techno type stuff when I first joined. There was kind of a narrower kind of style and genre that we're doing, and it's gotten so much broader. Still focused around synths, but you're seeing people do stuff that I would never have imagined. So I think it's cool to get exposed to so many more people.
Okay, let's go dive into your studios, if that's okay. Let's start by you, Information Trey. Can you explain us what you have got going on back there?
Yeah, you're actually seeing the opposite view of what you usually see, because usually my cameras are back there pointing this way, but I'm using the iMac cameras because I didn't feel like powering everything on. But that's sort of, yeah, so I can't move the camera around too much because it's, the iMac camera, but that's sort of the main table over there that's what you usually will often see on the stream. That's all my gear over there. I used to have a camera pointed at the keyboard stand over here, but I couldn't run 4 cameras all the time anymore. It was destroying my USB bandwidth, so I had to get down to 2, so you don't really see that side of the room as much. There's not really, I don't use that stuff all that much. I'll use the K2000 once in a while if I want to throw in like a piano sound or something like that. But I once in a while would use that SY35. That is actually, this old Yamaha right here was the first keyboard I ever bought when I was like, God, I don't know, 21, 22, whatever I was. Bought new back in the day. Thought it was a great keyboard then, but now it's like, it's basically a Rompler with, I believe, a 2-operator FM engine in it. I think it's only 2-op, maybe only 1. I don't even remember. So not a great synth, but yeah.
Talking about nostalgia.
Yeah. Yeah, I actually have that, and somewhere, I don't even know where it's at. I think it's on a shelf now. I have my Yamaha RY10 drum machine. Was the first drum machine I ever bought right around the same time I bought this keyboard. Why I kept buying Yamaha, I don't know. But it was the probably early 90s at that point, so it wasn't like there was a lot of choice. That was kind of an ugly period for synthesizers. Everything was kind of coming out like this SY35. Everything was very digital, and the horrible membrane buttons, and like I think knobs were considered kind of gauche at that point. So everything was it was a bad period for synths. So
what do you have against Yamaha? What do they do that bothers you?
Nothing. I mean, there was a time, I think, I mean, the DX7 in particular is, it's a historical synth and has a huge role in synth history. And it's, it's also the arch nemesis of Trent Reznor. There's so many pictures of him breaking DX7s back in the day, but Yamaha didn't really keep up with it. They kind of fell off to the side. I think they're too busy making motorcycles and whatever else they do. I mean, they still make some mixers, and they do their like workstation keyboards, but it's not, not what they used to be. Like the DX7 was pretty legendary, and some of the models around that era, but then they just kind of fell off. So.
How about you, Actitect? What do you have going on in that room?
Well, I did a pretty thorough walkthrough of the entire setup during a showcase, so I'm not going to go into detail, but obviously there's like the big central digital mixer right here. There's a drum machine, sampler, generative sequencer, pad controller, audio looper, polyphonic analog synth, digitally controlled analog monosynth, analog monosynth, key polyphonic sequencer. Then there's some more stuff right here. There's some old Volcas for FM, another analog synth, 303 clone, virtual analog synth from the 90s, and there's a lot of pedals as well, like sustain pedals, and there's an analog filter pedal, and the big boy right here, the North Stage. And actually last week I spent a lot of time routing the gear a lot more. I used to be able to only play the North Stage with the North Stage, but it took like 2 RetroKits devices to make it happen. But I can now play almost everything with this. I can play all the synths, and I can play 16 different channels on the sampler, on the 1010 black box. And I can even play the generative sequencer. So I can play something in here, and I can have the input mangled up and generated into something that I can send to the sampler or to other stuff. And here's all the video stuff. Maybe I have a better view for that. Let's see. Well, this isn't much better. There's a video mixer, a hardware video mixer for all the cams they come into in one capture card. I got a DMX mixer here. I got a video synthesizer, a computer, streaming computer, a tablet for chat and other stuff. It's a Windows tablet, and I think that's it. That's it. And I don't want to go into the gear themselves because it's not very relevant. Everybody knows this stuff. It's not really special gear. Not many people know, but I'm not really a synth person. I'm not somebody who completely collects synths or does sound design. For me, it's a lot more interesting to combine gear and to see what what I can do with it, and preferably something that nobody else tries. And a good way of doing that is by connecting it to other pieces of gear, or doing weird routings with MIDI, stuff like that.
Nice. We have a question from the audience, from Scruffy Fox. The question is, how long does it take for you to set up for a jam? Do you have a particular boot order?
Is this for me, this question?
I think for the both of you.
Okay. So how long does it take? Well, if necessary, I can turn everything on in a minute, but it would be stressful. So everything is pretty much ready to go. There are some weird pieces of gear that don't turn on when the power is on. For instance, the monologue, I have to turn that on manually. And the same goes for the Volca mix, but yeah, it's pretty much routine. I know what buttons to press. Also, all my power is on one of those power boxes, with all kinds of switches. So all cases have their own power box, and it's like click, 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 and then all my power is on. Yeah, just stream settings, changing the title, and checking some stuff in OBS if there's not an old Ray Train logo still in my stream, stuff like that. But if necessary, I can go live in a minute or something. But I usually take a lot longer, and I also want to create some music to start with, because one, it makes me test every piece of gear I have. That's the thing I try. I could just create something, some starting point, and I want to have touched every piece of gear to see if they're completely functional, and also to get a feel of it. It helps muscle memory as well, when you already touched and you know what patch is running on the piece of gear. So when I have something that's nice enough as a starting point, I turn on the stream and just go and let it evolve.
Nice. How about you, IT? By the way, information tray is a play of words on IT because you're an IT, right?
Yeah. That's not where it came from, but yeah, I mean, it works. So yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Yeah, my setup is a lot like Actitect's. I can be up and running in 5 minutes. It was a big part of when I thought of how I was setting this up, is I always call it my musical mise en place, which if you've ever done any cooking, that's where you get all your ingredients and prepped and ready to go before you start cooking. And it's that same kind of thing. Like, I always want to have as little friction between me deciding I want to make music and me being able to start making music as possible. Like, if I have to sit around and plug a bunch of shit in and dick around with stuff and make things work for 20 minutes, 30 minutes to start making music, I probably will not, because I'll just be like, no, that's fine. I'll just turn on the TV. So I can just come up here. There's a switch over here that flips this side of the room. There's a power switch over here that flips up the computer. And there's two little, I got a bunch of those little Furman, power boxes, a couple of those down there. And kind of like Actitect said, I've got like the Mini Logo XD that I've got to power on by itself. And the mono station doesn't come on by itself. I've got a Korg SQ1 that I've got to go back there and power that up real quick manually. And I usually have to flip on my Digatone by hand because it's got a funky battery mod in it, which it's cool that I can take my Digatone without power and just go, sit on the porch or whatever and use it. But you have to leave it plugged in, because if the battery drains, it won't boot until the battery recharges. Like, it completely freezes up, which is annoying. But so I have to leave that plugged in and turn it off. So I have to flip that on. But other than that, yeah, I've got I do all my sequencing and all my mixing. Everything is done in Ableton, and I've got a preset template that's just got everything ready to go, and it's got assortment of different loops. I mean, that's some of the stuff, like the Electron gear, the Deluge. I have patterns already loaded in there that I use, and then some of the other stuff that doesn't have sequencers, I'll have some patterns to kind of kickstart ideas in Ableton that I can just tap and get going. I usually like to do a little more prep work than that. A lot of times I'll take some of that gear that has sequencers, like predominantly the Delusion, the Syntact. I'll take those and just sit on my couch for a few nights before a stream and kind of sketch out some ideas in those, so that I have kind of a starting place when I start, because I don't like to stream just from zero. I tried it for a while of doing the tabula rasa thing on every stream, and it got too stressful for me. On a good day it's easy. On a bad day, when maybe your creative juices aren't flowing, it can suck. I've had some really bad streams as a result. So yeah, that's kind of my thing.
Do you guys have any piece of gear, any synth, anything that is like the diva, your favorite thing in your whole setup?
I mean, mine is, I do love both the Delusion and the Syntact, just because I can pop those out really easily, and they're kind of a more full feature groove box. They're really good at sketching out ideas. I just got that Digatone partway through last year and ended up liking that way more than I ever would have expected. It was kind of like, I have this kind of crappy FM synth over here, but I want to have a better one. Even though I thought I was never a fan of FM synthesis, I think I'm just not a fan of Yamaha FM synthesis. Like, I think that controversial, but I think the DX7 is not a very good synth. I don't like the way it sounds. I'm not a fan. And so many FM synths just try and sound like a DX7, whereas the Digatone does not at all. It's very much its own thing, and I ended up loving that thing. And of course, my trusty Devilfish TB303 that I've had for 30 years now. It's the one piece of gear that has survived all my gear binges and purges. So that, and I don't really actually care for the machine drum, but I've had that for 20 some years as well. But yeah. So there you go.
Nice. How about you, Actitect? Is there something that just centers your attention right now?
Well, there's the centerpiece of the setup, of course, the North Stage. It's always the go-to thing because I like expressive play. But at this point, I'm pretty much blown away by the Torso T1 and what it enables me to do. Generative synthesis is really, really interesting for me because it's the exact opposite of what I do myself. Expressive playing versus like an algorithm to jam with. So those two opposites work really well together. And also the fun thing about the sequencer is with a normal sequencer, you still have to either program it into your sequencer or play it in your sequencer. And that takes a pretty big extra step or extra layer, because when you play it in and it's just not right, you have to make the choice, do I roll with it or do I do it again? With programming, it's the same thing. It's a kind of blind, and you don't really know how it's going to sound until you do it. And with this generative sequencer, it's all based on Euclidean patterns, so it always sounds good rhythmically, and that's just a blessing. It really hands-on, and for starting this week, I'm going to do a lot more with it because I now have it connected to my main keyboard as well. So I can play a chord, and those notes will be generated into other chords or even into chord progressions just by playing one chord. I can also set it to a scale, so it will be impossible for me to play a wrong note. So it's going to be really, really powerful, and I'm looking forward to using it a lot more. So that's probably my biggest focus point at the moment, gear-wise. Yes.
Nice.
Yeah. I'm super curious about that T1. It's one of those things I'd like to try out eventually.
It's brilliant. It takes some time to get into it, but it's created so logically that it's not some gear that you really have to learn, and you have to keep reminding how it works. But once you get a hold of this, of how it's structured and the structure of the gear, you will not forget it, because it makes sense. And I love pieces of gear that make sense in such a mathematical way.
We also have a question from Beta Units. What is your record uptime, and also what is your preferred stream length?
Boy, think the longest stream I ever did was maybe 2.5 hours. And that was, I think, one of those cases where the person I was supposed to raid in an event wasn't around. So I kind of stretched until they found somebody. So as far as my preferred length, honestly, these days I feel about an hour is where I feel comfortable. The 2-hour streams, I started finding myself my attention span right around an hour, between an hour and a half. That's when my attention span starts to drift, and honestly, I kind of start getting kind of bored of it. And I feel like that's the kind of thing that comes across on stream too. If I'm not into it anymore and I'm not having as much fun, I feel like that comes across, and maybe the people watching me, why should they enjoy it if I'm not enjoying doing it, you know? So whereas an hour, you know, it's, you got to keep it tight. You can't, I like not, I have a tendency of just rambling and kind of, not only when I'm talking, but when I'm playing music as well, of just writing an idea for way too long. Whereas if you've only got an hour, you got to kind of focus and cut from idea to idea. And you can't just, I guess it could also make it easier to write an idea because you only got to go an hour, but I don't like to do that. So I like to have a little bit tighter timeline to keep me a little better focused and keep me from getting bored, because I have horrible attention deficit issues. So 2 hours into a 2-hour stream and I'm like, oh, what else can I do? Can I play a video game now? I want to go outside. So that's my answer.
Well, it's better that way instead of doing something that some streamers do, is that they go play a video game and they go outside, but they do it with a camera. So
Yeah, not interested in that. Yeah, and I think that's where something also where I'm interested in, why I'm interested in something like that T1 or a Hapax or some of those, or even a Polyan Play, something that has some of that generative stuff also, because I think if you're starting to get a little bored and starting to get tight on new ideas, you can just do a little generative thing to maybe help stretch your performance a little. But yeah, I think an hour is about right for me. I think probably 90 minutes might be perfect, but an hour works really well. So
nice. How do you act it?
Total record time, that's like the total amount of hours I have streamed. I have no idea. I was just trying to look it up somewhere in the stats of my Twitch profile, but
No,
I have no idea.
No, I think the question was, what's your longest?
Well, I think I've done a really long one in the beginning. For me, really long is like 4 hours, 5 hours, but those were not full jam. I did a lot of request kind of stuff. And right now, the most comfortable for me, when it's like a full jam create from scratch thing, or like a complex musical structure thing, like the Subwalkers things. Those really have choruses and verses. And after about 90 minutes, we are usually spent. So that I would say 90 minutes for the Subwalkers sets, but an hour is also good. For a techno set, 90 minutes till 2 hours, but that's also had to do with how much work it is to also physically, to walk around the setup, and also in this basement I run out of oxygen in about 2 hours.
Oh, you're in the basement. We didn't know
I am
that.
in a basement underneath an industrial building. Yes, and I don't really have very good ventilation in here. So when I stream, I close the door upstairs. But usually when I arrive, I keep the door open for a while for some extra oxygen. So it also, but my body also feels spent, probably because of a lack of oxygen and stuff like that. So and I also like to just chill out and have a drink after a while. But maybe I'm planning to do longer streams and build some sort of break scenes to accommodate it. But we'll see. But for me, like super intense performance, 90 minutes is perfect.
Let's hear about the backstory of your names, if that's okay.
Sure. Mine is a reference from the movie 12 Monkeys.
All right.
There's a line, Brad Pitt's character says something along the lines of, your processes are all fucked up, man. Your information tray is jammed. And the couple of guys I was hanging out with, we all watched that together, and it became kind of kind of a way we would razz each other whenever any of us was being kind of a dumbass or said something stupid or was just confused about something. We'd say, "Your information trace jammed, man." And so when originally the information tray project was 3 people, me and my friends Rick and Jim. So when we kind of started making music together, the information tray kind of thing just kind of became the name of that. Then it went on hiatus for a while. Our friend Rick got sick, had brain cancer, and unfortunately passed away. So the information tray thing kind of got put aside for a while. And then when I started making music a few years ago, I talked to my friend Jim, and he's like, asked him if he'd mind if I, brought that name back. And so we brought it back. I brought it back, and that's how we got here. So yeah. Short answer is a 12 Monkeys reference, but there's more to it than that. So
Nice.
Yeah.
How about you, Acti?
I designed it. I am my day job is actually I'm a freelance naming designer, and I like company branding and stuff like that. And one day I just sat down and wasn't happy with the names I was using before. And the idea behind it is that I'm a designer. I have a live act. You can simply combine that, but etymologically, it also means creator of doings. It's and I really enjoy building setups and finicking with it. And I don't think maybe I enjoy it even more than performing, but I'm not. It's hard to compare. So architecture, creating setups, and being both an act and an architect or something like that at the same time. Something like that.
What's the name in the designer? Never heard of that.
I did a design education, and I pretty much graduated with a project that was about designing new words, and that whole concept was kind of new back then. So I graduated with a book where I presented 650 new Dutch words based on common events at that time. And it was very well received. I got a daily column in a national newspaper with it, and was invited to a television show and stuff like that. The book was released, but just creating words like that, there wasn't enough money in it. So I transitioned to make some more money. I transitioned into company names and product names and stuff like that. And that's a naming designer. I design names for things. And I also figured out that it's a very good starting point to get new customers, because when there's like a startup or a new company, they come to me for a name, and the next thing they need is branding, identity, websites, and I also do that kind of stuff. So I'm always first row with the after I just designed a name for a company like that. So that worked really well.
Do you have any favorite word that you created that you can share with us?
Ooh, they're all in Dutch. So
that's okay. That doesn't matter.
I don't have one ready at this time. I'll get back to that.
Meljoan asks in the chat if you can redesign her name.
I can.
So
short answer, yes.
Yes.
I can. Designing names for persons, for actual persons' identities is actually a pretty hard thing. It's a good thing that people don't have to design their own name. It's a good thing that parents give a name, because it will get you into a complete identity crisis trying to design your own name. That's a lot of startups that come to me, especially people that just with one person, and their startup is like an extension of their own identity most of the time, and they already arrive at my company with a complete identity crisis, because it's almost impossible to look at yourself from the outside. So and people change, yeah, it's a good thing humans don't have to design their name during puberty or something. That would be devastating. Some try, but nah.
Everyone would be called like cool dude.
Yeah, with a Z on the end, and yeah.
How would we say Golden Shrimp Guild in Dutch? What would be the translation of that?
De Gouden Garnalengilde.
Right.
Sounds like you're angry, isn't that me? Can you repeat that slowly?
Gouden Garnalengilde.
Gouden Garnarengild. That's nice. Okay, so Harden Garnarengild. If any of you, just a quick shout, if any of you want to join these little talks we do, there's a channel on the Discord. If you don't know where the Discord is, please tell us in the chat and we will forward you a link. We have a little channel there where there we go, where we put together all of this. So if you guys, any of you wants to come here as a guest or as a host, that can be achieved as well. Please go to the Discord and check that out. One of the questions that we asked everybody and always got some interesting answers out of was, what's your plan when you start streaming? Not when you started, like when you start a stream. What do you have a plan? Do you improvise everything? What's your routine behind that?
When I first started, I tried to do the improvise everything method, and I think I kind of talked about this a little bit before, where on a good day, that's great. If you're feeling creative and you got a lot of ideas, that works great. But on the days maybe when you're not feeling so creative, when maybe the juices aren't flowing, it can suck. So these days I like to do a little bit of prep work ahead of time. I think I mentioned before, that's why I like both the Syntact and the Deluge, is those are really good for just sitting on the couch, and I can sketch out some rough patterns, some little ideas, so I have something to work off of. As well as now, I used to also always, when I was done with one of my streams, I would just quit out of Ableton and not save any of the stuff that I'd done in there. I got a little bit better about, if there's aspects of a stream I just did that actually sounded really good, maybe I'll save that pattern in Ableton and have it, in the future for pulling that in again. For a while, I had a bunch of loops of stuff from some of the 2 albums that I've put out. I ended up not going to those that often just because it felt too repetitive to keep playing the same loops over and over again. So I eventually deleted those out of there and prefer to stick with, try and be as fresh as possible with each time I stream, sketch out some new ideas, but also still have some of those crutches so that if I'm not feeling creative, I've got something to fall back on, and I don't end up, kind of shit in the bed in the middle of the stream. So.
Okay, how about you, Acti?
Well, usually I have some general idea of what to do, style-wise or ambience-wise. Usually there is some kind of raid train or some kind of event, or when there's not, I try to have some kind of idea about what I'm gonna do myself, and then I do the startup thing, touch every piece of gear and get one thing going, because I think that's a part of it's also not really interesting to look at for viewers, so I do that right before the stream, and then I just go. That's it basically. I just go with the flow, and the flow is such an important thing, because one important thing is that I want to do something different every time. I don't want to repeat myself. So that's also a reason I do full improv, because I don't like doing something I did before, because I like it to be one big exploration, all of it. So be it technically or musically, always try to do a completely different scale than last time. Preferably even a scale that I didn't do before. I just sit on the keys and find the scale, and then reverse find what it's called, and use it in the put all my gear in the right notes and sounds and tempos and time signatures, and just go, basically.
This is a question that sometimes gets an interesting answer, sometimes it doesn't. But do you guys remember your worst or one of your worst streams?
Oh boy, I've had so many of them. Yeah, I mean, there were some early on. I mean, some of my DJ streams early on where, you know, like I would have like 2 people in the chat even watching. It's just like, why am I doing this? There's nobody. The only people that are watching me were usually Ix and sometimes Dan, and that was a lot of times my entire audience. Like, why am I doing this? Like, there's nobody. I'm shouting into the void. This is pointless. You know, there's a couple of those early kind of more synth based once I switched to doing the live synth stuff. A couple of those early ones where I was, you know, trying to improvise and, you know, which just wasn't feeling creative. So everything I came up with was just bad. And those are also, you know, the old Murphy's Law thing. Those are also usually the times when some random piece of gear or another is malfunctioning or not working, because I'm not as meticulous maybe as Actitect is, and I should be, but I'm not, of making sure everything works before I start the stream. I just kind of turn it on and hope for the best. And every stream, something's not working right, but you know, but I don't know if there's a specific bad stream that I had, but I've had a couple of those. Although sometimes, you know, there were a couple that I thought were really, really terrible. Then I went back and watched the replay. I was like, that wasn't nearly as bad as I thought it was. Which is, I think, is the case for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Which I think it's really valuable to go back and watch the replay of everything you do at least once. You know, you can get an idea of some things you did that maybe you thought were really good, and turns out it didn't sound as good as you'd hoped, or the vice versa. Stuff that, you know, you thought was terrible, and you turn out, hey, that was actually not that bad. Or, you know, you get ideas of, you know, that's how I learned that I have a really bad habit of kind of riding a groove for too long. And I also had a really bad habit for a while of I just kept layering things on top of it and never taking things back out, and ended up, you know, I was like, oh God, by the end of that stream, it was just a cacophony because I had every synth in my rig playing something all at the same time. And I learned to, you know, structure and, you know, break things down, build them back up, and that kind of thing. So, yeah.
Okay, thanks. Everyone keeps saying that Actitect is hot on the chat. I don't know why, but if anyone else thinks that Actitect is hot, please drop an opinion in the chat. Let's do a poll. If any moderator can do it, is Actitect hot or not? That would be nice. How about you, Actitect? Do you remember? work it, baby. Do you remember some of your worst stream?
Yeah, and because I usually don't have a plan or something to completely fall back on, and I kind of need the flow, you know, and sometimes it doesn't come, and because there are some things that can put you out of it, like gear not behaving or chat not behaving. But no, usually it's just in your head. I've had some streams where it just wasn't working out, and then I just raid someone, and sometimes I later that day I just start to stream again or something. Sometimes I was in too big of a rush. Now I do the little thing that where I create something and test every piece of gear, but I didn't do that from the beginning. So there were some times that I would start streaming and like half of the shit I was using wasn't responding in the way I wanted. And that's really not good for the status of flow when you're live. So, and it's really hard to get back in there. So the stream itself isn't that terrible. It was just that it's just pretty uninspired music probably, but also not super bad. And exactly when you watch it back, it's like, okay, it's not brilliant, but it's acceptable. And the other way around as well. Some things where you're dancing all over the setup and then woo, and you listen it back and it's like, oh. So your own mind is it's maybe the same thing with as with the naming, is that you don't really get a good idea of how it is to perceive what you are doing at the point when you're creating it and looking ahead and because it's just listening and creating is a completely different state of mind. So when something can be completely fucked up in your head or not going anywhere, but listeners could have a good time, or the other way around. So I don't think there are any catastrophical streams as far as I know, but some are just not good from the creator's perspective. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. We've all been there. We're about to finish. We have 7 minutes left. First, I wanted to congratulate everyone that worked on putting this together. This is the first stream where everything goes right. There has been no technical issues, no chat issues. Everything has gone, at least till now, on the rates. So, kudos to everyone. If you were to give advice to someone that is started streaming, what advice would you give to them besides what we have already spoken about?
Boy, honestly, just do it. Not to steal the Nike slogan, but you don't get hung up on, and this is a mistake I made of thinking that it has to be this massive, amazing production your first stream. It doesn't. You could start with just you on the couch with a drum machine if that's what you got. Start somewhere, because the only way you get started is by starting. So it doesn't have to be some amazing thing the first time out the door. My first streams, I didn't have any of this gear. Like I said, I started off doing DJ streams. I had a copy of Tractor and this machine drum that's sitting over here, and that was it. It was enough to kind of, start learning what works, learning what doesn't, that you add the pieces as you go. Don't feel like you need to have all this shit to start doing some jams and streams.
Yeah, that's a nice advice, because when you turn up, when you go to twitch.com and you see who's online, you see very big artists. It can be very overwhelming. So that's a nice advice. How about you, Acti? What would you say to starting streamer?
Less is more. Make sure you have one good camera angle, one piece of gear that you completely master, and make sure just your audio is okay. Those are the only things you need. A good camera angle or visualizer even, but make sure you master. You're good at one piece of gear I think that's the most important thing. These are it's all pieces of gear, but they're instruments as well. Make sure at least one piece of gear feels like an instrument that you can. That's. You ask me, making music is about you pulling something from the air, and you need to feel an instrument or master an instrument to be able to suck up what you feel in chat, in the world, and put it into audio through the instrument. The instrument it's a tool, it's an instrument, and that's the thing you need to do. And it doesn't have to be a super complex piece of gear. It can be like one keyboard or a super simple synthesizer, or hey, somebody followed my channel. And yeah, that's what I would advise. and it doesn't have to take super long. It just make sure you know your way around one piece of gear, and don't buy too much stuff. It you will make it harder for yourself by adding more stuff. It You think I need some kind of thing to make my music better, but that's not always the case. The more you buy, the more focus you lose. And if you got one groovebox that you're really good at, or that has the ability to put patterns into it, so you can create some stuff in advance, you have always something to fall back on. And yeah, you need that backbone in the beginning.
Nice. If any of the viewers are interested on what on our guests' responses, please follow them. This is a platform for getting to know artists. So if you feel interested in what has been said today, please follow both of our guests. Do you guys want to plug anything? Do you have a schedule? Do you have any upcoming streams you want to talk about?
I don't. I'm probably gonna start getting back into doing some semi-regular streaming here again soon. I've been kind of heads down songwriting mode, working on my next album, which I think is done, but I'm not sure yet. But nonetheless, I think I might switch back into streaming mode. But other than that, yeah, I'll have another album out at some point this year. I think it's done, so we'll see. Still need to talk to my my sugar daddy there at X Studios Cleveland about when we still got to get it mastered and then work out a release schedule and all that. So, but I think it's done. I'm in the resting period on it now, which is what I always do with my stuff when I write it. You finish it, then you let it sit for a couple weeks and go back to it with fresh ears just to make sure everything is good. So, almost done with the resting period on that. So, that's about it for me.
Okay. How about you, Acti?
Yeah, first of all, I think I should plug our Super Booth attendance. I'm working my balls off all month to get everything ready. Just to send some stuff to the printers to make our booth look great. A lot of design work, and I still have to do a lot of stuff to make the guild and the server in the ultimate state to be able to show who we are to the European electronic music world. And so I also like to plug the fundraiser for it. It's somewhere here on the bottom of my screen. There's a little bar that's on the GSG overlay. Any funds, donations are very much appreciated. It's costing me quite some money to be there, and not to mention a lot of time. I don't like begging for money, and a big thing with GSG is I don't want it to be a community or a service where the artists have to pay up. That's something I'm working towards. So don't feel obliged to pay. Just it just really helps out. And the thing is, what I'm trying to create is a platform, and I'm trying to create ways for the shrimps to even make money in the future, like remote gigs and stuff like that. So, but at this point, I could really help some donations. You can do them on gsg.live/donate. Furthermore, the 420 stream with Subwalkers was the last one of this season. The Subwalker streams are only in winter because Jeroen, the drummer, he is a canal boat tour captain in the city I live in. So he works all summer, and then in the winter he has time to make music. And so this is the season where I focused fully on my own progress, and I'm also looking really forward to expanding that. So there's going to be some new kind of streams probably the next 6 months or so.
Nice.
Also want to do some release stuff. I've made so many multi-track recordings all over the last few years. One thing I want to go into is go into those recordings and see if I can make some kind of consumables out of it.
Nice. Well, there you go. I want to thank my guest today, Information Trey. I want to thank Actitect. I want to thank the whole community. This is getting better. Yeah, I want to say that Actitect has indeed been very hot during this interview. The chat has confirmed that. So we go with the truth on this. We go with the truth on these streams. So thanks, everybody, and let's see you on the other side. Goodbye.